Welcome, gamers, to the start of a new Let's Play series. My name is Daz Tactic. We're going to be playing Heroes Hour. Now, this first video in this particular series is going to be in episode 0, which, if you are used to my channel, means that I'm just going to be basically showing, I guess, stuff that's under the hood a little bit. I'm not really going to be doing any gameplay. If you are looking for an actual Let's Play game, then I will wait until episode 1. But if you sort of wanted to sort of see what the game has got, what my thoughts are about the game, sort of where I think things could be improved, where it shines, then certainly this episode I will be trying to cover as much of that as I possibly can. So, before I get started, a big special thank you to my Patreon supporters. I very much appreciate what you guys do. It makes it very hard for me to justify the time without actually having the support that you guys do provide. So, thank you very, very much. I always forget to thank you guys, and yeah, so I just wanted to sort of get that out of the way, because I know that once I get into the actual Let's Play, I will forget from episode to episode. Also, if you do like the content, then please consider liking and subscribing. It certainly does help with the YouTube algorithm. Anyway, let's get into it. So Heroes Hour is a game very, very heavily inspired by Heroes of Might and Magic, particularly around the vintage of Heroes of Might and Magic 3 and maybe 4, sort of in that sort of genre, or that sort of vintage. So it's sort of inspired, from my opinion, when Heroes of Might and Magic was at its absolute prime. We had sort of like larger maps, they're just more interesting. And this game has got a lot to like about it. Now there are, I think, from what I've sort of read from different comments on Steam, people are finding it too similar in some cases. I don't think it really is. I mean, certainly it is. Like, when you look at it, it certainly is. It does have real-time battles, but, you know, that's not really here nor there in the sort of grand scheme of things. But where this game really does sort of bring itself into it is it's using the mechanics and, I guess, the inspiration of a game like Heroes of Might and Magic, but it's taken things just to such an extreme level in terms of the ways that you can actually play the game. There's so many different ways you can set a game of this up, and I'll try to show you that in this episode, and probably also in the next episode as well. I've also been reading I always like to read comments, particularly on the Steam forums and things, just to sort of get the perspective of different people, and you know, what they're struggling with the game, what they like about the game, and so on and so forth. And so there's a few things that, I guess, with the game that people are struggling with a little bit. Of course, you know, there's the game has been very, very buggy up until this version. I found this version to be fairly good. This is version 2.0.1, which is the launch version, or the release version of the game on Steam. Up until now, I haven't really felt I could cover it because it was just too unstable. Everything I would try to do, it'd be crashing all the time, crashing the desktop. It was really, really frustrating. So I've got to sort of say that even though I love the idea of the game, I wasn't going to cover this, but with every iteration I've been sort of loading it in, testing it, and then sort of thinking, no, it's still, I can't recommend it. But with this version, I found this to be very, very stable. It may not be as stable because of my recording software, but I have enjoyed my time with the game with the launch version. I've got to say I didn't enjoy it in the last few months, really, just and I have been sort of testing it every so often with each update to see if it has had stability sort of added into it, and at that point it hadn't. So just be aware that there may be problems if the game does get updated. It may then go into another process of it being unstable again. I hope that's not the case, because it's very, very frustrating when the game is crashing. So that's probably my biggest negative about the game. In terms of gameplay, if I'm trying to sort of be critical about the game, it does have real-time battles, which you can see through here. One thing I do find problematic with the real-time battles is that you don't really feel like you're having much impact strategically. Now, there is ways to look at that, and I'll try to sort of explain how you can try to help yourself get that through. And I noticed a lot of other people have also commented on the same thing, but it doesn't feel very strategic or tactical, I guess, in the sense that it feels like you just lump your forces in and, fingers crossed, just let them fight and see what actually does happen. But there is a little bit of nuance. Now, I would love a lot more nuance to that. I would love something that, I guess, a bit like the Dominion series, where you can sort of set your forces up to certain templates, have them scripted to do certain sorts of things. I mean, in the future, it'd be awesome if they could actually add that to the game itself. But it's not here yet. There are certain things you can do, and I'll show you a way that you can try to sort of train yourself a little bit in how to best set those things up. In fact, it's really quite simple. We'll be doing that in this particular episode. Let's have a look, I think, at the lexicon, because this will give you a bit of a feel as to what the game does actually have, and just how broad it is. Also, I did notice a lot of people were saying, oh, there's no help files, and there's how does this work and how does that work. The lexicon is a really, really good resource. So let's just go into there to start with. Now, there's a few little bugs with this one, and I will sort of show you this as well. Now, when we start our episode 1, I'll come back and spend a bit more detail with this one. I think we'll start with order as what we'll actually play through in episode 1. You've got 11 different factions. So you've got like a basic human faction, which is mainly centered around monks and paladins and griffins. Back and through there. You've then got an elvish faction back and through this side, where you've got essentially rangers, hunters, druids, satyrs, almost like not purely elvish, but certainly in that sort of vein. Next one across is another human faction with an arcane sort of style. So this is more sort of like your djinns and your war magies and so on and so forth, lion gods. I guess sort of more centered around Middle Eastern cultures. I would think sort of the way that this one's sort of then worked. You got like wizards and artisans back and through this sort of style as well. The next one across is your undead. This is the decay. And so these do actually have like skeleton soldiers and death. What is this one? Bone worms or bone dragons. Next across, we have demons or demonologists. So you've got imps, flame stokers, different sorts of mega demons down through this side. So these are your sort of still human based, but certainly much more in the demonic sort of style. I wouldn't call them human based actually. I think that they really should be, they should be demons, as it would be the style. Across through here, we've got like a goblin faction, where you've got sort of like you start off with goblins, and you've got centaurs, raiders, trolls, etc., up through to cyclops. And across the next one, we've got the lizard folk, so lizard men, where you've got like worms, wizard catchers, up to sort of T-Rex sort of style big creatures. Is going to be your top of the tree through there. Next one across, it looks like a sandcastle, but this is sort of more like your troglodytes. So these are things where it's sort of interesting. Like you've got like there's just more minotaurs back through this side. You've got tunnel riders. This is just your basic troglodytes back and through this side, up through to watchers. You've got like watchers in through here as well. Sort of you don't expect to see those really with troglodytes, but anyway, that is the troglodyte faction. Back across through here, we've got like the Lotlians. These are sort of like sea-born lizard men. So this is sort of they do actually end up with getting like phoenixes, which again seems funny. That almost seems to me it should be part of this group. And like it's the phoenixes should be sort of across with the Arcane Federation, but anyway, they're not. Sorry, wrong one. And so this is sort of like a bit more of like water based in what they do, and you can sort of see if I hover over things, you can see aquatic. This creature is aquatic in nature. If knocked off a boat, it will re-enter combat unscathed. So you've still got to get boats to travel around, but I think you do anyway. But it is something where they can actually survive in the water. Across through here, we actually then have the Dwarven faction. So the Earthen faction, I know a lot of people sort of like this one. This is, you got like your basic miners, your bear guards, and you get up to your actual yetis with these sorts of guys. Then across here is you've got sort of like more of an Eastern human, where you've got like different sorts of fighters, archers, fire lancers, divine monks, earth tigers, tiger of war, spirit serpent, and serpent of the gods. So very much an Eastern-inspired human faction. So they're your different major factions. That's 11 of them that you can then play as. They do have positives and negatives, and I don't really know a lot about them. As I said before, I was frustrated playing the game over the last few months, so I haven't really had a close look at to see which one I think is the easiest to play. And I think it should actually, I wish it would say, what they're rated as to their difficulty level. It's sort of because it can change a little bit. It's not great, like it's not a massive amount when you actually do it. Actually, one of the other problems I have with the game, just talking about it, is it's very much a game where once you get ahead of the income curve. Like once you start to get like a lot more income, like if you're the first one to get to a second castle and get the castle under control and get your income raised that way, you then start to accelerate away from the game. So, and similarly, it can work against you the same way. So it's sort of a game where things become quite scattered, fairly random. It's quite complex in the way that it does play. I wish that was more balanced. I wish there was more choke points. I wish it was easier to control the choke points on the map so that things didn't go as crazy as what it can do in the actual game itself. All right, that's the different factions we actually have through there. Now we go through various creatures. Now, I've only been playing this version of it a very short period of time. So these, as you come across things, they'll then appear here, so you can actually have a look at them. So you've got your elementals, your nature creatures, your demons back in through this side, humanoids. So these are all different sort of creatures that you'll sort of find over the course of the game. Miscellaneous back and through here, and then you've got your big bosses like your dragons and hydras, etc., etc. So there's a lot to sort of see through there. So this one, and it will give you a full list of what the actual creatures will then do. So you can then sort of have a look to see what their power rating is, what their health is, what their damage rating is, what damage sort of type it is, how fast they move, and what abilities they have. And it's managing the abilities. So I think that's where the fun of the real-time strategy does come into it. And but again, we'll have a look at some skirmish games, because that does introduce you to it. It gives you a bit of a better feel as to sort of how to approach the game. And we'll do that in the second part of this particular presentation. Okay, then we've got, for example, back over through here, you've got your different artifacts. So these are your basic artifacts, intermediate. So you can see there's a lot of content in the game. Greater artifacts, ultimate artifacts, and then you've got sets of artifacts as well. You've got like the Mesmer's artifacts, so that you can sort of get like benefits as you sort of get all of these different things. This is like the Titan Visage, so the ultimate helmet, part of the Titan set. Bonus with 3 pieces, units become immune to knockback and have more health. So if you can get any 3 of the 5, you then do get this one again. Bonus with 3 pieces, 25% of lost creatures return after combat with the Mandel's sort of armor. This one through here, bonus with 3 pieces. When your unit dies, they create crazed spirits that continue fighting for 10 seconds. So it's just fun little stuff in through there with the actual sets. And these also then add different things to what you can then sort of go and do. So Titan gloves in through there is part of the set. Yeah, there we go. So it's part of that particular set through there. Okay, so that's your basic equipment, the artifacts. Then we come across, this is the spells that you actually have. So they come into 5 different classes. So you've got like water spells, earthen spells, air spells, fire spells, and miscellaneous spells. I won't go through how these actually do work, but these are also, it's also important to get a feel for the different sorts of spells that you're presented with at the start of the game. And quite often these will be randomly generated, so you won't really get to sort of see what they do. Well, you get to see what they do when you get them, but you won't be able to think, okay, I specifically want that particular sort of spell. Back in through here, we then have the skills. So each actual, like as your unit levels up, you then get different sorts of skills. So you can, I mean, it does tell you when you're actually in the game as well, but you can actually sort of then go and get more and more skills like as you do level up. And that's very, very important in the game that you do level up. Back in through here, you've got your achievements. This is just as you're sort of playing. You can see I haven't unlocked any in this particular version of the game. Now over here you've got your adventure buildings. These are things like, for example, Ancient Sphinx, where it'll ask you a riddle, a brewery. Visiting the brewery will allow you to exchange part of your army for a group of random units with a consumer value, etc., etc. So it just goes through all the different areas. Now, again, I haven't come across some of these or most of these in the game just yet. Then finally we've got this funny sort of map, and I don't know what this does, to be honest. It looks like it should be part of some sort of campaign, but I haven't seen it anywhere in the actual game. Like it's just got information, backstories about stuff. I don't know if it's just here as a bit of a backstory to to give information. Like this is the Lotlians, is this stuff? Yeah, I've got no idea if this is just backstory map. It just seems sort of strange. Like you can click on it, you can't really interact with it other than sort of watch what's going on. Anyway, that's the lexicon. Very, very worthwhile having a look, particularly as you're sort of playing. I did have previously. I'm always worried now about going back to it because I was having problems. If I would play like a skirmish and then try to come back and have a look at the lexicon, the game used to crash. But I think it now is much more stable. We're going to be look. The tutorial is definitely worth doing, so do that one. It does take a little bit of time, and you can sort of stop it really once you get beyond the basics. You can sort of then not. I didn't bother finishing it. Options is fairly sort of it's a fairly stock standard really the way it does work. You've got your sound levels, game settings in through here. I do like having my combat on half speed just so I can see what's going on. The combat gets pretty hectic, as you can sort of see through here. You can pause it by moving your mouse to the bottom of the screen where the spells usually are. But there is supposed to be a pause key when we have a look at controls. Pause combat, give order is O, but it doesn't work all the time. So it's sort of one of those things where I wish I did try to change that to the space bar, and that didn't work either. So it's sort of not really working the way that I would prefer to have the space bar as the pause. I do like to have those sorts of things pausable, so I can sort of see what's going on. But the game, as I say, isn't really geared strategically or tactically. I guess tactically would be the way of looking at it. The tactical battles are a bit of an all-in brawl more than anything else. You don't have a real lot of control over it. You sort of do, but it doesn't have much bearing, to be honest. Okay, so anyway, let's go and have a look at skirmish mode so you can sort of see what's going on. Now, where this is valuable is it's very good to do this anyway, to sort of see what you're actually going to be going, like just so you can get a bit of a feel for how to play the game. And we'll just do one of these in a minute. But you can do custom as well. And what that means is that you can actually come through, if you're thinking, okay, I wonder how I can get past a certain aspect, you can sort of set up a game for yourself where you, like if we just go back and sort of set up, like for example, the order. So this is the different creatures from the order. I can then just go in and start to put in a few different creatures and then have them play against something. For example, if we're going to be testing to try to sort of see, okay, well, how do our basic units, like if we've got, say, swordsman. So, in fact, was it swordsman? It was actually the crusader. No, it wasn't the crusader. It was the paragon. I'm getting it all wrong. Yeah, the militia becomes the halberdier. The marksman becomes the arbalist. The swordsman becomes the paragon. Yeah, with the taunt. So if we actually have a look at this, and I'll just use this as a bit of an example, you can sort of see this is a good way to get a bit of a feel for what your different units will do anyway. I mean, you can use the lexicon for that as well. But these are things where you may sort of think, okay, well, look, let's go and throw in a handful of the paragons, which have got like a taunt ability. You can see this creature attracts attention. Enemies are more likely to target it than other nearby enemies. Let's just go and click on that. So you can see that I've got there, I can buy like another, say, 5 of them. We've now got 6. I can sort of get rid of them if I wanted to, and it'll just give me like a total power factor of what's going on there. Now, if we combine them with other creatures that are going to be also in the front line here, like for example the paladin, they may sort of work in fairly well together. Let's just go and buy 5 of them as well. So we've now got a total power of 84. If we just want to see how these sorts of creatures do work in well together, like if they would be suitable, or actually probably let's get rid of all of those and put in the strong arm, which has got 102 health. It's not super healthy. In fact, if we have a look at this one through here, it's 133. Let's go and use these these ones here and actually go and throw in, say, 6 of those. So we've got 6 of each of these. This one's going to taunt other enemies, and it's going to bring things through. It's got 4 speed. This one's got 5 speed, so it sort of works a little bit faster. Just as a combination, this is 54. Let's just go across to, what should we get? I'll just go to, say, undead, just because I think it sort of gives us a bit more of an understanding that we can sort of where we can get things going. And let's go and say that we're going to be basically using these bone guards, and so we're just going to go and buy a heap of them. Like we'll get, say, well, that's 52. I'll just buy another one. That's 54. So we've got 27 bone guards against our 12 units in through here. And so now if I start this, I then get to set things up. And so this is how the battles then do work. So they've got like I can just set this one up. Now, you'll notice that when I actually hover over this and start to move it around, you can notice, see there that in the top middle, it's got like the mouse. I've got the left down at the moment. If I right click, I split this one up. I won't worry about that one as such. But if I grab these, and if I then press Shift and click, I can combine them into a single unit. That's really what I want to do here. I just want to combine them so that they're working together. And they will still sort of go off and do their own thing, but this will then just treat them as a single entity. And so this is sort of where you can sort of then use a bit of the nuance. So for example, if I had this one over through here, and this is really just a matter so we can sort of see what's going on. But if I right click, I can then split it off into different groups. So I can mix and match to a certain degree with the actual game. Again, Shift and click, and then we just combine them together. But let's just leave it like this. And we can sort of see there we do actually have an advantage of what the game is sort of thinking that we actually have. We don't have any sort of spell casting or anything like that in this particular map. This is purely just unit versus unit, and we get a bit of a feel for what's going on. So let's just start the battle. Now if I go to no, I can't really pause this. Actually, I can go P there. So I can actually pause it there. Now, I don't know if the P key does it. No. So I can actually have a bit of a look. Now, what I can do here is I can flee. I can order units around, and we can sort of then go into attack or defend. So I can actually give them statuses as well. But in this case, we're just doing purely an attack. Now, I can't see much else what's going on. We shouldn't. Our main big guys should be, and they're not actually up there. There's one up there. They should be taunting and attracting more of the attention from the others. And so at the moment, nobody's taken any damage, and none of them have taken any damage. Let's just unpause. So you can see we're knocking back. Now, two of them have been killed, and one of these have been killed. Now, these are a bit squishy, but do more damage. There we go. We're now dominating completely. But this allows you to sort of then tweak things a little bit. You can see this one's gone berserk. The one that's red underneath there, unfortunately we can't see the others, but we have lost two of them for 26 across there. There we go. We won that particular battle. So that was that just allows us to then set up little scenarios where we can then try to sort of test to see how things are working. I think that this is a really, really good aspect of the game because it does give you nuance about what the different abilities that you actually have in there are. So again, if we just go back across to well, you know, you can set up anything at all in these sorts of little skirmishes, and they are quite useful. And as I say, like just to sort of have a bit of a read as to what the things actually are. Like if you've got ranged units, you know, how many ranged units should you actually have in behind like a group of, for example, just halberdiers, like which are protected. This creature is shielded from the first attack, or you know, like if you do go into, for example, arbalists, which are long range with swordsmen in front, which are slow and protected. You know, like they're the sorts of, I guess, sorts of questions that you, or sorts of scenarios that you can then sort of test out just to see how best you can then put your forces together. But what tends to happen is because there's not a hell of a lot of nuance in the way that the game is sort of handles this, it's one of those sorts of things where you tend to not worry about it too much. But I wish that it was more important, the tactical side of the game. That's probably one of the, not failings of the game, but it's certainly one of the things where I think there's a lot of potential to do something a lot more powerful with that. But it is quite interesting to sort of have a bit of a look to sort of see where, you know, potential weaknesses of your forces might be. You know, like for example, if we did go and get a heap of marksmen, and if I bought like, you know, say 21 of those, or I've got 52 in that side, and we just go back across to the, I'll just use the undead because I think that they do sort of give you a bit more of a feel. Actually, where is it? Decay, there we go. So if we just go in with just like lowly old skeletons, which have got, this creature has a chance to avoid damage from elite creatures and a high chance of being unaffected by spells. I feel yeah, this one's got projectile protection. But let's just go in with these guys. And so if we just go and get the equivalent number there, 52, and just go and start this one. Now we've got the left-hand side is like, you know, if I sort of set them a fair distance apart, they're still going to have to sort of close the gap. But once they close the gap, these guys are going to be useless. And so again, it's just easy to have a bit of a look and see how they do go. You can see it, even in here, it's saying we do have the advantage, but I don't think we will ultimately. Yeah, they've killed three of the skeletons so far, but once they get into this sort of fight, the skeletons should start to dominate. Only just, really. But again, if you can sort of keep them shielded, they're going to do fairly well. In fact, they're doing okay. They killed enough of them to make it sort of worthwhile. Yeah, so they have actually won this. Anyway, it's just interesting to sort of see how the different sorts of units do perform. And these little scenarios that they actually have, for example, Arcane, this one through here, we've got like a certain amount of gold that we can then sort of spend with what we actually have through here to then try to combat, like we've got 13 goblin gunners. And so what do we need to do with Nature's Wrath to overcome these goblin gunners? And so we can have a look at and see, for example, just do one of these as well, and then that'll be all we do in this particular episode, I think. But power 2, so they're only low level, 36 health, so very low health, 6 damage with their attack. This creature is able to fire a projectile, damaging enemies at a distance. It deals half its normal damage in melee combat, and there is an area where units are too close for ranged attacks and too far for melee attacks. So, too close for, that's okay. So we just need to get in nice and close with these particular units. Now, what we can do is we can think, okay, well, we can spend up to 1,155. Like a bone Liath in through here is sturdy. It can taunt, knock back, and lash. This creature alone may be enough to sort of take these things on. 13 of these isn't really all that powerful. These are slow as well. If we had something that was fast, Rock Pummeler, that's 6 speed, that's 6 speed, that's 8 speed, the Sea Star. This is so we're using Nature's Wrath in through here. What else have we got? We've got an Excavator. This is, I think, a Dwarf. That's slow as well. That one would probably not work, bringing that one across. This is a Molten Chara. 7 speed is not too bad. It does have burning, it's got knockback, and it is sturdy. The Sea Star is aquatic. It's got charge, wide attack. Let's take those in. Let's just go and get like a few of these. Now we can get like a number of these. I guess the least you can go in and attack them with, the better. So let's actually see if we can go in with 4. We'll just sort of start this one and just sort of see where we are. We want to close the gap as fast as much as we possibly can. I can actually. So I didn't realise I could actually push them into there as well. I thought I sort of wouldn't be able to move that one away. But let's just go and start the battle. So in they go. I mean, if we started, the further away we started, the more difficult it would be for us. So the fast moving should let them close the gaps. Yeah, no, we've lost that one. So we didn't have enough to sort of get through that one. So we would then just go back through and think, okay, well, let's go and buy a few more. Let's get 9 of them and start the battle. Do the same thing again. Like if we're in nice and close, the 9 should actually be able to do exactly what they want. We've now got 50-50. Here we go, charging in, doing a lot of damage. And they can't really use their ranged attacks, which gives us an advantage. You can see there we're now sort of smashing our way through. This one can use a ranged attack, but yeah, we now overwhelm them. But it's just interesting to sort of see, like if you do know what the mix is of forces, you don't really get much of a chance to do that. Once we do that one, it then unlocks another one further on, and you can just keep on sort of going through the progression through here just to sort of get used to the actual units. But I do strongly suggest that you give this a bit of a go, just so you get a feel for what the different types of units do and what their benefits, like what their nerfs and perks actually are, I guess, is sort of like, the way that you sort of look at it. Anyway, we'll just go back out. So what we're going to be doing is in the next game, we will play a... actually, I should maybe look at the new games as well, actually. I have run out of time. I did mean to sort of show actually how to build a game, and I've spent too much time in the skirmish mode. Yeah, let's continue on. We'll make this a bit of an extended play. So these are the different sorts of maps that you then get to play, and you'll sort of see in through here, you've got these 2 floating nodes. The node system in the game is brilliant, and what it does is it allows you to set up like a random map generator using nodes that you then can control. If like not in these as such, these are scripted. So this is Isles of War: 4 islands, a great sea, and 2 rival realms go to war. Now, it's only showing 2 of the actual nodes in through here. I don't know why it's not showing the others. Difficulty, you can sort of change it down from easy up through to challenging or hardcore plus. Now, to be honest, the game is quite hard. I would suggest that if you're going to do anything other than 2-player, play on easy, particularly for your first few games. It's brutally difficult because there's so many different ways that the AI can attack you. Again, this is another failing, I think, of the game, or another thing that I wish could be changed in the game, where there's a little bit more nuance for protecting choke points. There's not a lot of choke points in the game at all, actually. It's very hard to control the choke points. Well, there aren't any. Well, there are some, but they're really difficult, particularly if you're playing on a world where where you can access water. And in this case, 4 islands, a great sea, and 2 rival realms go to war. This will be a water-based game, and that's going to make life difficult because you're going to be herding cats, essentially, trying to sort of keep track of the different armies that will be coming against you. So be aware of that quite often the setup for the games can be quite different. Like this duel, you can see this is a 2-player game. This is also 2-player. And this one is now connected. So face your opponent in a straightforward duel, 2 realms, 1 victor. That's then showing there's a land base between them. There's actually a land connection. And so you will actually be able to sort of fight through to each other, and it will then just become pretty much a standard battle. That is one that you could probably play on normal, because whoever really takes the other castle is going to be the winner of that particular game. As we come through, you'll see that this is like tiny maps, small maps, medium, large, huge, sprawling, and then custom maps. Let's have a look at some of the custom maps, because these are interesting as well. Now, when I click on these, you'll sort of see that they've got different sort of nodes that go from like red through to a castle back over through here with nothing, and then another castle through this side. There are 2 players in through this one. If I go and edit this one, it's going to then create like a variation of this map, and I can actually do that to have a bit of a look at it. But I think I'll actually just go and build my own map. But this one is a 2-player map, essentially, where each side will be identical with some sort of like, this looks to be identical in through here as well. So these would have like two extra castles. You've got land connections, but it doesn't mean that there's not sea connections there as well. So a map showcasing asymmetric map design and how to start a map without a hero. Okay, so this would have like different sorts of... These are interesting in the fact that you can then sort of try to work out like how Thing on its own is the actual developer of the game, and so he's actually built this just as a showcase, so you can sort of see how he has designed this particular map. Claws is another interesting one where you've got like 4 different factions. You can see there that they all come up sort of random. You can sort of pick and choose those as well, with other sorts of areas back in through here. So Weak Tower defends you against weak lords. You shouldn't get into big trouble against them. Fatal Few, through this side. I don't know what's happening. Oh, hang on. When you see nothing, it means that it's actually like a tile map where somebody has designed the actual map itself. And so this has been designed. Rowdy Party is like a 4-player. So a chaotic custom 4-player map. Each player starts in a resource-poor area, and the centre of the map is rich and easily accessible. Now, it's very easy, again, to sort of change the scripting on this one. There's an E missing on the end there. But anyway, this is an interesting one. Again, 4-player makes it hard, because you will actually have a choke point here, which is actually controllable, I guess, to a certain degree. So you possibly could play this one on normal, even fairly early on. But again, I think anything beyond a 2-player game, I'd be looking to play on easy, I think. Scars and Cinders version 2, another scripted map through this side. Welcome to the Underground, it's sort of saying. So you can get a bit of a feel for what's going on through there. Surrounded, this is like a 1 player against 1 other player, but they start off with 4. This one is with the same sort of deal, starting off against 3. Tug of War back and through here, where you actually have like a 2-player map with another independent in the middle through this side, etc., etc. So let's go and start a let's go and build a random game just so you can sort of see how it's actually done. It's really quite simple. So we're just going to go to a new node map through here. We start off with a node, and so the node has got like a basic building area that it's got. So it's got a size. So if I go and click on this, you can see there. This is the. I'll just write dump, or I'll just write YouTube, just so I know to not actually do it. Made by Daz Tactic. It's going to be awesome, a custom map, and I can sort of then write just testing or something like that. Now you can see through here, it's got like symmetry areas in through this side. You can certainly, like if we go and do that, it will then sort of have like a symmetry around the actual, like if we go and say, okay, this is a symmetrical center, it will then build 3 nodes off from this particular node. Now I've selected this particular node. I won't go into massive detail. It's fairly easy to get a feel for what's going on. Now what this is the level, I wish we'd actually give a number here. This is the level of units. So you're going to sort of find that the mobs on this particular location will be from like level 1 essentially all the way up to, I think this might be level 10 or something. So if I go, if I just go back, so this is 10, I'll just go 1, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 6, okay, level 6 it was. So that just takes us back up to that one there. So the mobs on this one will range from level 1 to level 6. The terrain will be just automatically generated. It'll be matching to random. You can sort of go into to match the auto or whatever else you want to actually have, match player 1. So you can sort of do that, or you can actually go across and say, okay, I want this to be crag or dirt or whatever sort of terrain that you're looking for. But I'll just go random. I'll just leave it on random in this instance. So edit objects in through here, and you can see it's got random objects equals true. So it will actually add some randomization to what's actually happening through this side. Just go and have a look. So we've got like a starting town. This is a player town. We've got 2 starting mines and 3 rare mines. This is your basic kit that you would sort of find on most starting locations, which is fine. And you can then sort of go and set this one up so that the starting town, for example, is always going to be, for example, order, if you wanted to set something up in that regard. But if you do any, people can then have more control over what's going on. And then the owner, in this case, I'm just going to leave it on auto, which is going to be fine as well. So we can go and add in other elements. Now it's just got temp, which we can then remove, but we can then go through and have like a second starting town. We can have a... there's the starting mines, there's the rare mines, then we have like a specific mine. We can then go and say, okay, well, I definitely want to have a gold mine or something else in there. Unowned towns, this is sort of like going to be a town that you can then take over from independence and then have like a second town in through there. And so match, for example, it's got match auto or match, we just play the different players that you actually sort of have in here at this stage. I'll just go match auto. Or not that I'll leave it in here. Town hero, I'm not sure what that is. Not sure what that one is. You've got resources you can sort of then put in here as well. So, different random resources. You can go auto or there's different sorts of creatures that are going to be protecting it. So this is just going to be sort of essentially just auto-generated protection on the different resources. Artifacts, battle mods, dwellings in through here as well. You can sort of set up what sort of how you want these to then sort of work. Adventure docks. If you do want to have it so that that you can actually make use of water, you can actually have a dock there. If you don't, then you can't get onto the water. Personally, I don't like the water, so I would be not having docks. You've got like a starting hero there as well, hostages. There's just so much that you can actually put in there, but the basic setup is this one here. So you can remove these as well. So we'll just go return. So this is essentially just like a basic sort of area. Let's go and add in another grouping over this side. So we just go and add in. If I go and click on add, I then get a second one in through this side, and I can actually go and edit objects in through here. So I can go and add in again just different sorts of locations. If we just go into the rare mines and maybe add in some. Actually, maybe just an unowned town. There we go. We'll just leave it that way. And so we'll return that one. And if you're trying to sort of figure out a theme for it, then that would sort of be fine. Now, if I go and say this, I only want this to be a 2-player game. So I'll just make the symmetry number 2 and make this the symmetric center. We then get an extra one over there, which we can, like, we can't actually go and, like, that is, whatever this is going to be back over here as well. And so we've now sort of set ourselves up with an unowned area in the middle through this side. We've got mobs that are starting from 1 to 6 again, which is fine. I'll just leave that one where that actually is. So this would then be a bit of a fight. Now, if I go to these areas through here, I've got different ways of protecting what we actually have through here. Now, I can make it so that there's no connection between here and here, which would then mean that we would need to have like a dock on each location so we can go into the sea. Or I can sort of leave the docks out so we are just going to be fighting purely on the land. And you can start off with a tower with certain things protecting it. You've got a monster that can sort of also protect it, again with different levels, or just empty, where you basically have like just a way through. Now, whatever I have through here is going to be then done over this side as well. And I can just keep on going and adding in different nodes if I wanted to. Like if I go and, actually, well, I won't worry. This is the symmetric center. But I can just keep on sort of going and building things over time if we do want to do that. So that is really the basics of doing it. And we then have like east border, west border, north border, and south border all at random. I can make these either land or sea. Now, if I make them land, they're going to be like bigger areas for people to sort of then wander through. If it's going to be sea, they're going to be fairly tight. But in this case, we should still actually have a connection running through here. So random resources on, roaming heroes off. You can turn them on if you wanted to. Player 1, you can sort of set these up so you can actually have them with whatever sort of setup you actually do want. And so I'll just go and save this, and then we'll just generate it, and I'll show you what it looks like. So this is it now building the actual map itself. And so this is what it generated. It generated a map in through here with various areas that we can then sort of get access to. We don't have any way off into the water. If we just go and press WASD, we can then sort of start to scroll across. So here is our random town, back over this side with our random hero, back across to just get across into the middle. There's nothing protecting this. There is no way through these, which is good. So that is a choke point. In this sort of map, this is where the choke points are quite useful. Then we have another sort of like unclaimed area back in through there that does actually have some protection. Again, may not be able to sort of get much beyond this sort of wild areas. It's probably just going to be more for fluff than anything else really. But there are certainly other things back in through here, and then across to the other area where they've got the other player back in through this side as well. So that is sort of like the map generation is very, very cool. Like this is now randomly been generated across the other side here, so it's got a big land mass. Not that there'll be any real benefit for that, but that's sort of the map generation. It's now an auto map. Now if I just go back and press escape and just go back to the if I quit the game, actually I won't quit the game. I'll just go back to the editor, which doesn't really take you to the editor. I'll just go back to new game, go down to the custom maps, and there's YouTube. And so I can go back into here, and that's what it looks like. That's what we created. And so I can now go through and say, okay, well, look, I definitely want this to be order. And I can then pick my hero, which will do this in the next episode anyway. I'll just go and pick one of them, for example. And at that point, I can then start the game. And it will then generate based on order back over through here. We don't know who's on the other side. And so we've now got a new map that's now been generated with our characters in through this side. I'll just click on done and then just move that one across. So somewhere over here will be a way through. There we go. A way through into the next area. And so that is essentially how map generation can be then done with this node system, where it really becomes quite interesting. These are the random things. Like this one does actually have some hostages that we can eventually try to let out. But you've got a lot that you can do with just the way that you set the games up. With the sorts of with the node generation, I find this just so interesting and so. Because it's a brilliant system, and this is why I think it really just the game has got so much content and so much potential to do all sorts of different weird and wonderful things. You will be able to find a way to have like a setup that you like to play at. This is the sort of setup that I probably would like to play. I won't play this one, although no, I won't play it. But it's sort of no, it would be too. I'd be able to exploit it because it's too easy to break through here. Anyway. I'm going to leave it there, guys. Thanks for watching. Hope you did enjoy this episode. This does give a bit of an overview of the actual game itself. We'll start in episode 1, though, where we actually play an actual game and go from there. I may tweak this, actually. I may tweak this so that we set this one up, and I'll start that in episode 1. Yeah, maybe we will play this one. Why not? Thanks for watching. I'll catch you then.